A monk once watched an old man carrying a heavy bag up a mountain. The monk asked, "What is inside the bag?" The old man smiled and said, "Nothing valuable." The monk looked confused. "Then why are you carrying it?" The old man replied, "Because I have carried it for so long that I forgot I could put it down." My friend, many people reach old age carrying the same burden, not a bag of stones, but people who use them, people who drain them, people who take their time, money, and peace. And because they have carried those relationships for so long, they forget they can let them go. According to Buddhist wisdom, one of the greatest forms of suffering is holding on to what is already weighing you down. So before you give away another year of your life, ask yourself, who is truly adding peace to your journey, and who has become the bag you were never meant to carry? The biggest mistake in old age is giving your best years to people who never valued them. You may have spent most of your life believing that being a good person meant always being available. Whenever someone needed help, you were there. Whenever someone was struggling, you listened. Whenever someone needed support, advice, encouragement, or sacrifice, you stepped forward without hesitation. You gave your time freely because you believed kindness mattered, and it does. But one of the most painful lessons that comes with age is discovering that not everyone values what you give. Many people appreciate your kindness only while they are benefiting from it. As long as you are solving their problems, they stay close. As long as you are useful, they remain present. As long as you are giving, they continue taking. Then something changes. You begin to need support yourself. You go through a difficult season. You face loneliness. You face uncertainty. You need someone to listen. You need someone to show up. And suddenly many of those people are nowhere to be found. That realization can be deeply painful, not because you expected repayment, but because you expected sincerity. You thought the relationship meant as much to them as it meant to you. You believed the care flowed both ways. Yet with time, the truth slowly reveals itself. Some people were attached to your usefulness, not to you. This is why many older people carry hidden sadness in their hearts. They are not grieving lost money. They are not grieving lost possessions. They are grieving the years they spent investing their energy into people who never truly valued it. The Buddha often spoke about the importance of seeing reality clearly. Suffering grows when we cling to illusions. One of the greatest illusions is believing that everyone values our sacrifices simply because we made them. Unfortunately, that is not always true. Some people see your generosity as an opportunity. Some people see your kindness as a resource. Some people become so accustomed to receiving from you that they stop appreciating what they receive. What once felt like a gift becomes something they feel entitled to. And this is where many people become trapped. Even after seeing the truth, they continue giving. Not because they want to, but because they are attached to the image they created in their minds. They keep hoping people will change. They keep hoping appreciation will eventually arrive. They keep hoping loyalty will appear after years of sacrifice. But wisdom begins the moment you stop asking people to become who they have never shown themselves to be. Wisdom begins when you accept reality, not the reality you wish existed, the reality that is already standing in front of you. As you grow older, time becomes more valuable than money. Money lost can sometimes be earned again. Possessions can be replaced. Opportunities may return, but time never comes back. The hour you give away today is gone forever. The day you waste trying to earn someone's appreciation is gone forever. The year you spend chasing people who do not value you is gone forever. This is why Buddhist wisdom encourages awareness. Awareness allows you to recognize where your energy is being invested. Awareness allows you to see which relationships bring peace and which relationships bring exhaustion. Awareness allows you to stop watering plants that never grow. Many people reach old age still trying to win love from those who have spent decades showing indifference, still trying to prove their worth, still trying to earn respect, still trying to be enough. But your value does not increase because someone finally recognizes it. Your value was always there. The problem was never your worth. The problem was where you were seeking validation. There comes a moment when a wise person stops chasing appreciation and starts protecting their peace. They stop forcing connections. They stop begging for reciprocity. They stop sacrificing themselves for relationships that only move in one direction. And something beautiful happens. The energy that was once wasted on disappointment begins returning to them. The heart becomes lighter. The mind becomes calmer. Life becomes simpler. Not because everyone suddenly changes, but because they finally stop expecting people to be different from who they have already proven themselves to be. The greatest mistake in old age is not having wrinkles. It is not having gray hair. It is not moving more slowly. The greatest mistake is continuing to spend your remaining years on people who have already shown you that they do not value what you give. Your remaining time is precious. Your remaining energy is precious. Your remaining years are precious. Spend them with people who appreciate your presence. Spend them with people who bring peace to your life. Spend them with people who value your heart while they still have access to it. Because one of the highest forms of wisdom is knowing when to stop giving your life to those who never truly saw its value. Never give your money to those who keep repeating the same mistakes. There is a difference between helping someone through a difficult season and spending years rescuing someone who refuses to change. Many people do not realize this difference until they reach the later stages of life. For decades they give, they lend money, they pay bills, they solve emergencies, they step in whenever someone creates another problem. At first it feels like compassion, at first it feels like kindness. After all, seeing someone struggle naturally makes us want to help. No decent person enjoys watching others suffer. But there comes a point when wisdom requires you to ask a difficult question. Is this person facing bad luck? Or are they repeating the same choices over and over again? Because these are not the same thing. Life can be unfair. Unexpected hardships happen. People lose jobs. People experience illness. People face genuine setbacks that are beyond their control. Helping someone through those moments can be a beautiful expression of generosity. But some people are not trapped by circumstances. They are trapped by their habits. They continue making reckless decisions. They ignore advice. They avoid responsibility. They refuse to learn from consequences. Then, when the results of those choices arrive, they expect someone else to save them. Perhaps you have known someone like this. Every year brings a new crisis. Every few months there is another emergency. Every conversation seems to end with a request. And somehow, despite all the help they have received, nothing improves. The same problems keep returning. The same patterns continue. The same mistakes repeat themselves. What makes this especially painful is that people with kind hearts often blame themselves. They think they are being selfish if they stop helping. They feel guilty for saying no. They worry about what others will think, so they continue sacrificing their money, their energy, and their peace of mind. Meanwhile, the person they are trying to save remains exactly the same. Buddhist wisdom teaches that suffering often continues because people refuse to learn from reality. Growth requires awareness. Growth requires responsibility. Growth requires honesty. But when someone constantly escapes the consequences of their actions, there is very little motivation to change. Imagine a person who never learns to walk because someone carries them everywhere. At first, carrying them may seem compassionate, but over time, that compassion prevents growth. The same thing happens when we constantly rescue people from lessons they need to experience themselves. Sometimes what looks like kindness is actually interference. Sometimes helping too much prevents transformation. This truth can be difficult to accept because it challenges the image many people have of themselves. They want to be the helper. They want to be the rescuer. They want to be the person everyone depends on. But the Buddha never taught people to become saviors of the world. He taught awareness. And awareness means understanding the difference between support and attachment. Support helps someone become stronger. Attachment keeps someone dependent. Support creates growth. Attachment creates repetition. Support empowers. Attachment weakens. As you grow older, your financial resources become increasingly important. You are no longer building a future from the beginning. You are protecting the future you have left. Every dollar represents years of effort, years of work, years of sacrifice, years of your life. When you give money away carelessly, You are not simply giving money, you are giving pieces of your life. That is why wisdom must guide generosity. Without wisdom, generosity becomes exploitation. Without wisdom, compassion becomes manipulation. Without wisdom, kindness becomes a doorway through which others continuously take without ever learning. Many older people quietly live with financial stress because they spent years solving other people's problems while neglecting their own security. They gave away money they could not afford to lose. They drained their savings. They postponed their own needs. They sacrificed their own peace. And often the people they helped moved on without a second thought. This does not mean you should become cold-hearted. It does not mean you should stop caring. It does not mean you should refuse every request. Buddhism does not teach selfishness. It teaches conscious action. Help when help creates growth. Help when help creates healing. Help when help creates opportunity. But be careful when your help only creates another cycle of dependence. A wise person understands that not everyone who asks for help is ready to change. Some people simply want relief from consequences, and relief without learning often guarantees the problem will return. One of the hardest lessons in life is realizing that you cannot change people by sacrificing yourself for them. You cannot purchase someone's maturity. You cannot finance someone's wisdom. You cannot force responsibility into a person who refuses to accept it. That journey belongs to them, not to you. As the years pass, protect your generosity with wisdom. Protect your compassion with awareness. Protect your resources with clarity, because the purpose of your remaining years is not to spend them cleaning up the same messes for the same people. The purpose of your remaining years is to live with peace, dignity, and freedom. And sometimes the kindest thing you can do is step back and allow others to face the lessons that only life can teach. Some people will drain your life without ever touching your wallet. One of the greatest misunderstandings people have about loss is believing that the only valuable thing someone can take from you is money. Money is important, but there is something even more precious: your energy, your attention, your emotional peace, your mental clarity. And unlike money, these things are often stolen so slowly that you do not even notice it happening. Many people reach old age wondering why they feel exhausted, why they feel emotionally drained, why they no longer enjoy life the way they once did. And often the answer has nothing to do with age itself. The answer is that they have spent years carrying emotional burdens that never belonged to them. Think about the people in your life. There are some people who leave you feeling calm after every conversation. There are people whose presence brings comfort, people whose words inspire you, people whose company feels light and peaceful. But there are also people who create the opposite effect. Every conversation feels heavy. Every interaction feels exhausting. Every meeting leaves you emotionally depleted. You may not understand why at first. You simply know that whenever you are around them, something inside you feels tired. These individuals often do not take your money. They take something far more valuable. They take your peace of mind. They bring constant negativity, constant complaints, constant drama, constant problems, and somehow they expect you to carry all of it with them. Perhaps you have known someone like this. No matter what happens, they focus only on what is wrong. No matter how much good exists in their life, they speak only about what is missing. No matter how many solutions are offered, they continue feeding the same problems. They are not looking for wisdom. They are looking for an audience. They are not seeking growth. They are seeking someone to absorb their emotional weight. At first, you may feel compassion for them. You listen because you care. You support them because you want to help. You encourage them because you hope things will improve. But after years pass, you begin noticing something. Nothing changes. The complaints remain. The negativity remains. The chaos remains. And while their life stays the same, your energy slowly disappears. This is why Buddhist wisdom places such importance on protecting the mind. The Buddha understood something many people overlook. The quality of your life is deeply connected to the quality of your mental environment. Most people are careful about what they eat. Most people are careful about their money. Most people are careful about their possessions. Yet very few people are careful about what enters their mind. Every conversation affects your state of consciousness. Every relationship influences your emotional world. Every person you spend time with leaves an imprint on your mind. If you spend years surrounded by fear, fear begins to feel normal. If you spend years surrounded by anger, anger begins to feel natural. If you spend years surrounded by negativity, negativity slowly becomes part of your thinking. This process happens so gradually that many people never notice it. That is what makes it dangerous. No single conversation destroys your peace. No single interaction ruins your happiness. Instead, it happens little by little, like drops of water slowly wearing away stone, like a small leak slowly emptying a container. Year after year, conversation after conversation, complaint after complaint, until one day you realize how exhausted you have become. Many older people carry stress that does not belong to them. They worry about people who refuse to change. They constantly think about other people's problems. They replay conflicts that should have been released years ago. They lose sleep over situations they cannot control. Meanwhile, their own peace quietly slips away. Buddhist teachings remind us that compassion does not mean absorbing everyone's suffering. This is an important distinction. Many people believe being kind means carrying the emotional weight of every person around them. But eventually this becomes impossible. You cannot save everyone. You cannot solve every problem. You cannot heal every wounded person. And trying to do so often creates suffering for yourself. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack. At first it feels manageable. Then someone places another backpack on your shoulders. Then another. Then another. Eventually the weight becomes unbearable. This is exactly what happens when you spend your life carrying everyone's emotional burdens. The mind becomes overloaded. The heart becomes exhausted. The spirit becomes tired. As you grow older, one of the greatest forms of wisdom is learning what does not belong to you. Not every problem belongs to you. Not every crisis belongs to you. Not every emotional storm belongs to you. Not every complaint requires your attention. Not every person deserves unlimited access to your mental space. This does not make you selfish. It makes you aware. A peaceful life requires boundaries. Without boundaries, your energy becomes available to anyone who wants to consume it. With boundaries, you begin protecting what is precious, and your peace is precious. Your remaining years are precious. Your emotional well-being is precious. The Buddha often compared the mind to still water. When the water is calm, it reflects reality clearly. But when it is constantly disturbed, clarity disappears. Many people spend their lives surrounded by those who continuously disturb the waters of their mind. Then they wonder why they cannot find peace. The truth is that peace is not only created by meditation, peace is also created by the people you allow close to your heart. As you enter the later chapters of life, pay attention to how people affect your inner world. Notice who leaves you feeling lighter. Notice who leaves you feeling heavier. Notice who inspires growth. Notice who spreads chaos. Because some people will never touch your wallet, yet they will slowly drain your joy, your energy, your focus, and your peace. And in the end, protecting your mind may be even more important than protecting your money. For a peaceful mind is one of the greatest treasures you will ever possess. And once you learn its value, you stop giving it away to those who constantly take without ever appreciating what they are costing you. The more you rescue certain people, the weaker they become. One of the hardest truths to accept as you grow older is that helping someone is not always the same as helping them grow. For most of your life, you may have believed that love means rescuing. You believed that kindness means stepping in. You believed that compassion means protecting people from pain whenever possible. And because of that belief, you may have spent years carrying burdens that were never truly yours. Whenever someone struggled, you rushed to help. Whenever someone failed, you tried to fix the situation. Whenever someone faced consequences, you stepped between them and the lesson life was trying to teach. At first, this feels noble. It feels generous. It feels like the right thing to do. After all, No good-hearted person enjoys watching someone suffer, especially if that person is a family member, a close friend, a child, or someone you deeply care about. But with time, something begins to reveal itself. The people you keep rescuing often do not become stronger. They become more dependent. The people you keep saving often do not become wiser. They become more comfortable repeating the same mistakes. The people you keep protecting from consequences often never learn how to protect themselves, and this creates a painful cycle. The more you give, the more they expect. The more you rescue, the more they rely on being rescued. The more responsibility you carry, the less responsibility they carry. Without realizing it, you slowly become responsible for a life that does not belong to you. Many older people are exhausted not because life was difficult. They are exhausted because they spent decades carrying other adults on their backs. They became the problem solver, the emergency contact, the financial backup plan, the emotional caretaker, the person everyone called when things fell apart. At first, being needed can feel meaningful. It can make you feel important. It can make you feel valuable. But eventually there comes a day when you realize something uncomfortable. Some people do not want solutions. They want rescue. Some people do not want growth. They want comfort. Some people do not want responsibility. They want someone else to carry it for them. This realization can be heartbreaking because it forces you to see situations differently. You begin understanding that not every act of helping is actually helping. Sometimes helping prevents learning. Sometimes helping delays growth. Sometimes helping keeps people trapped exactly where they are. Buddhist wisdom teaches that every person must walk their own path. No one can meditate for another person. No one can develop wisdom for another person. No one can awaken for another person. Each individual must eventually face reality and learn from it directly. This principle applies to everyday life as well. Growth often comes through struggle. Strength often comes through difficulty. Wisdom often comes through consequences. When someone is constantly protected from those experiences, they often remain emotionally and mentally immature. Think about a tree growing in nature. If the tree never faces wind, its roots remain weak. If the tree never experiences storms, it never develops resilience. The very challenges that appear harsh are often the things that create strength. Human beings are no different. Many of the qualities you value most in yourself today were born from hardship. Patience came from waiting. Wisdom came from mistakes. Strength came from difficulties. Maturity came from consequences. If someone had removed every challenge from your life, you would not be the person you are today. So why do we assume others can grow without facing their own lessons? This is where many compassionate people become trapped. They mistake suffering for something that should always be avoided. But Buddhism teaches something different. Suffering can become a teacher. Pain can become a guide. Difficulty can become a path toward understanding. When you constantly remove every obstacle from another person's life, you may also be removing the very lessons they need most. This does not mean becoming cold-hearted. It does not mean abandoning people. It does not mean refusing to help anyone. Wisdom is not cruelty. Wisdom is knowing when support creates growth and when support creates dependency. There is a profound difference between offering a hand and carrying someone forever. A hand helps them stand. Carrying them teaches them to remain dependent. As you enter the later years of life, your energy becomes increasingly valuable. Your time becomes increasingly valuable. Your peace becomes increasingly valuable. You can no longer afford to spend every year fixing problems that someone else refuses to solve. You can no longer sacrifice your well-being to save people who are committed to repeating the same behaviors. You can no longer build your life around rescuing individuals who have no intention of changing. One of the most liberating realizations in old age is understanding that every adult is responsible for their own journey. You are responsible for your choices. They are responsible for theirs. You are responsible for your peace. They are responsible for theirs. You are responsible for your growth. They are responsible for theirs. The moment you truly understand this, a tremendous weight begins to leave your shoulders. You stop feeling responsible for everyone's happiness. You stop feeling responsible for everyone's success. You stop feeling responsible for everyone's mistakes. And for the first time in many years, you begin breathing more freely because you finally understand something Buddhist wisdom has been teaching for centuries. You can guide people, you can encourage people, you can support people, but you cannot walk their path for them. And the more you try, the weaker they often become. Real compassion does not make people dependent on you. Real compassion helps them discover the strength that already exists within themselves. And that may be one of the greatest gifts you can ever give. Stop sacrificing your peace to keep others comfortable. One of the quietest forms of suffering is spending your entire life trying to make sure everyone else is comfortable while slowly abandoning yourself. Many people reach old age carrying a burden they never needed to carry. The burden of constantly worrying about what other people think. The burden of trying to meet everyone's expectations. The burden of making sure nobody feels disappointed, offended, upset, or uncomfortable. For years, they shape their lives around the desires of others. They say yes when their heart wants to say no. They remain silent when they need to speak. They tolerate behavior that hurts them. They accept disrespect they should have rejected long ago. They continue giving even when they are exhausted. And they do all of this because they fear the consequences of choosing themselves. Perhaps this feels familiar to you. Perhaps there have been moments when you knew exactly what you needed. You knew what would bring you peace. You knew what decision was right for your life. Yet instead of following that inner wisdom, you followed the expectations of others, not because they were right, but because you feared disappointing them. You feared criticism. You feared rejection. You feared being misunderstood. Over time, this habit becomes incredibly dangerous, not because it destroys your life all at once, but because it slowly disconnects you from yourself. Little by little, you stop listening to your own needs. Little by little, you stop trusting your own feelings. Little by little, you stop honoring your own peace, until one day you wake up and realize you have spent years building a life that keeps everyone comfortable except you. This is one of the reasons so many people feel emotionally exhausted later in life. They are tired not because they worked too hard. They are tired because they lived too much of their life for other people. The Buddha taught that attachment is one of the primary causes of suffering. Most people think attachment only refers to money, possessions, or material things, but there is another form of attachment that many people never recognize. Attachment to approval, attachment to being liked, attachment to being needed, attachment to being accepted. This attachment quietly controls countless lives. It causes people to ignore their own wisdom. It causes people to tolerate toxic relationships. It causes people to sacrifice their happiness for the comfort of others. And the tragedy is that no matter how much you sacrifice, it is never enough. There will always be someone who wants more. There will always be someone who expects more. There will always be someone who feels entitled to your time, your energy, your attention, and your peace. If your goal is to keep everyone happy, you will spend the rest of your life chasing something impossible. Because no human being can satisfy everyone. No human being can meet every expectation. No human being can avoid disappointing others. The sooner you accept this truth, the sooner you begin experiencing freedom. Many people spend decades carrying responsibilities that were never theirs. They become emotional caretakers for everyone around them. They feel responsible for other people's moods, responsible for other people's reactions, responsible for other people's happiness. But think about how exhausting that truly is. Imagine trying to control the weather every day. Imagine believing it is your job to make sure it never rains. That is how impossible it is to control the emotional experience of everyone around you. People will feel what they feel. People will think what they think. People will judge you however they choose. No amount of self-sacrifice can change that. Buddhist wisdom teaches that peace comes from accepting reality, not controlling it. And reality is this: some people will misunderstand you. Some people will disagree with you. Some people will become upset when you establish boundaries. Some people will criticize you when you finally start protecting your time. But their reaction does not mean you are wrong. In fact, many people become uncomfortable the moment you stop allowing them unlimited access to your energy. They become uncomfortable because they were benefiting from your lack of boundaries. This is why setting boundaries often feels difficult at first. When you have spent years putting everyone else first, choosing yourself can feel selfish. When you have spent years saying yes, saying no can feel uncomfortable. When you have spent years carrying everyone else's burdens, putting them down can feel strange. But discomfort is not always a sign that something is wrong. Sometimes discomfort is a sign that healing has begun. Sometimes discomfort is a sign that you are finally changing a pattern that has hurt you for years. As you grow older, you begin realizing that peace is not something that magically appears. Peace is something you protect. You protect it through your choices. You protect it through your boundaries. You protect it through the people you allow into your life. You protect it by learning when to walk away from situations that continuously drain your spirit. Many people wait until the final chapters of life to learn this lesson. They finally understand that their greatest responsibility was never making everyone comfortable. Their greatest responsibility was caring for their own inner well-being. Because when your mind is constantly stressed, your life becomes stressful. When your heart is constantly burdened, your life becomes heavy. But when your mind becomes peaceful, everything changes. You begin enjoying simple moments again. You begin appreciating life again. You begin feeling lighter again. The Buddha often emphasized the middle way, a path of balance, not selfishness, not self-neglect. Balance, and balance means understanding that your needs matter too, your peace matters too, your happiness matters too, your remaining years matter too. You do not need to spend the rest of your life proving your worth through sacrifice. You do not need to earn your value by exhausting yourself for others. You do not need to destroy your peace to protect someone else's comfort. One of the greatest forms of wisdom in old age is finally understanding this. You can be kind without abandoning yourself. You can be compassionate without sacrificing your peace. You can love people without carrying their entire world on your shoulders. And when you learn this lesson, something remarkable happens. For the first time in a very long time, you stop living according to other people's expectations, and you start living according to inner peace. That is where true freedom begins. When people only take from you, distance becomes wisdom. One of the most difficult lessons to learn in life is that not every relationship is meant to last forever. Many people grow older believing that loyalty means holding on to every relationship, no matter how painful it becomes. They believe that if they care enough, love enough, give enough, and sacrifice enough, eventually things will improve. Eventually the other person will change. Eventually the relationship will become balanced. Eventually the appreciation they have been waiting for will finally arrive. But for many people that day never comes. Instead, years pass, then decades pass, and they find themselves trapped in the same exhausting pattern, always giving, always understanding, always forgiving, always sacrificing, while the other person continues taking. At first, the imbalance may seem small. Perhaps they constantly ask for favors. Perhaps they only call when they need something. Perhaps they expect your time whenever it is convenient for them, but disappear whenever you need support. You notice these things, but you dismiss them. You tell yourself they are going through a difficult period. You tell yourself they do not mean any harm. You tell yourself that relationships require patience, and sometimes that is true. Every relationship experiences difficult seasons. Every person has flaws. Every friendship, family bond, and partnership requires understanding. But wisdom requires you to notice the difference between an imperfect relationship and a one-sided relationship. An imperfect relationship contains mutual effort. A one-sided relationship contains one person carrying almost everything. And the longer that pattern continues, the more damaging it becomes. One of the reasons this lesson is so difficult is because human beings become attached to history. We remember who someone used to be. We remember the good memories. We remember the moments when the relationship felt meaningful. And because of those memories, We often ignore what is happening in the present. We become loyal to the past while suffering in the present. This is a trap many people fall into. They keep giving because of what once existed. They keep sacrificing because of who the person used to be. They keep hoping because they cannot let go of an old image. But Buddhist wisdom teaches that life is constantly changing. Nothing remains the same. People change, relationships change, circumstances change, and wisdom requires the courage to see things as they are now, not as they were 10 years ago. This can be painful because sometimes the truth is that the relationship you are holding on to no longer exists. Only the memory remains. The Buddha taught that attachment often creates suffering. Many people immediately think of attachment to possessions, but attachment to unhealthy relationships can be just as painful. When we become attached to keeping someone in our life at any cost, we often ignore reality. We ignore repeated disrespect. We ignore repeated disappointment. We ignore repeated selfishness. We ignore the emotional exhaustion that follows every interaction. And all because we are afraid of letting go, afraid of change, afraid of loneliness, afraid of accepting that not everyone is meant to remain on our journey forever. Yet one of the greatest paradoxes in life is this: sometimes the relationships we are most afraid to release are the very relationships preventing our peace. Imagine carrying a heavy stone in your hands every day. At first, the weight feels manageable. You tell yourself you can handle it, but year after year, the weight slowly drains your strength. Eventually, your arms become tired, your body becomes exhausted, your energy disappears. Then one day someone asks a simple question: why are you still carrying it? That question changes everything, because you suddenly realize that the burden was never mandatory. You chose to carry it. Many relationships are exactly like that stone. You continue carrying them because of habit, because of guilt, because of obligation, because of fear, not because they genuinely contribute to your well-being. This is why distance can sometimes become an act of wisdom, not anger, not revenge, not punishment. Wisdom. Many people misunderstand distance. They assume stepping back means you hate someone. They assume creating boundaries means you no longer care. They assume protecting your peace means you have become selfish. But Buddhist teachings suggest something very different. Sometimes stepping back is the most compassionate thing you can do for yourself, and sometimes it is the most compassionate thing you can do for the other person as well. Because as long as someone continues taking without consequences, they may never recognize their behavior. As long as someone has unlimited access to your time, energy, and generosity, they may never learn to appreciate it. Distance creates clarity. Distance reveals patterns. Distance exposes truth. When you step back, you begin seeing relationships more clearly. You begin noticing who reaches out only when they need something. You begin noticing who respects your boundaries and who resents them. You begin noticing who values you and who merely values what you provide. This awareness is powerful because awareness is the beginning of freedom. As you enter the later chapters of life, your energy becomes too precious to waste. Your peace becomes too valuable to sacrifice. Your remaining years become too important to spend carrying people who refuse to walk beside you. This does not mean closing your heart. It does not mean becoming cold. It does not mean abandoning compassion. It simply means becoming selective. Selective with your time, selective with your energy, selective with your emotional investment. The Buddha never taught people to hate others. He taught them to see clearly. And when you see clearly, you realize that not every relationship deserves unlimited access to your life. Some relationships deserve closeness, some deserve boundaries, and some deserve distance. Not because you are cruel, but because you have finally learned the value of your own peace. One of the greatest forms of wisdom in old age is understanding that letting go is not always a loss. Sometimes letting go is the beginning of freedom. Sometimes distance is not rejection. Sometimes distance is self-respect. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop chasing people who have spent years showing you exactly how little they value what you give. When people only take from you, distance is not weakness. Distance is wisdom, and wisdom is one of the greatest gifts you can carry into the final chapters of your life. The older you get, the more dangerous guilt becomes. There is a burden that many people carry for most of their lives without ever realizing how heavy it has become. It is not a burden you can see, it is not something you can touch, yet it quietly controls decisions, relationships, finances, and even peace of mind. That burden is guilt. For many people, guilt becomes one of the most powerful forces shaping their lives. They give because they feel guilty saying no. They lend money because they feel guilty refusing. They tolerate disrespect because they feel guilty creating conflict. They sacrifice their own needs because they feel guilty putting themselves first. And after years of living this way, they no longer know the difference between genuine kindness and guilt-driven sacrifice. This is especially common in old age. As people grow older, they often become more vulnerable to emotional pressure. Children ask for help. Relatives make requests. Friends expect favors. People remind them of the past. People remind them of obligations. People remind them of everything they have done for others. And slowly, guilt begins making decisions on their behalf. Instead of asking, "Is this wise?" they ask, "Will people be upset if I refuse?" Instead of asking, "Is this good for my peace?" they ask, "Will I feel guilty if I protect myself?" This shift may seem small, but it changes everything, because the moment guilt becomes your guide, wisdom loses its voice. The Buddha taught that suffering often comes from attachment. Most people immediately think about attachment to money or possessions, but there is another attachment that is just as powerful: attachment to approval, attachment to being seen as a good person, attachment to being liked, attachment to avoiding criticism. Many people spend decades trying to protect this image. They want everyone to see them as generous, helpful, selfless, reliable. And while these qualities are beautiful, problems arise when maintaining that image becomes more important than protecting your own well-being. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with stones. Every time someone asks for something, you place another stone inside. Every time you ignore your own needs, another stone goes in. Every time you say yes when you desperately want to say no, another stone is added. At first, the weight feels manageable, but after years pass, the backpack becomes unbearable. You become emotionally exhausted, mentally drained, spiritually depleted. Yet because you have carried it for so long, you begin believing the weight is normal. This is what guilt does. It makes unnecessary burdens feel like responsibilities. It convinces you that sacrificing yourself is noble, even when it is destroying your peace. Many older people secretly live this way. They continue supporting grown adults who should be supporting themselves. They continue solving problems that are not theirs. They continue giving money they cannot afford to lose. They continue accepting behavior that hurts them. And all because guilt whispers the same message. If you stop, you are selfish. If you say no, you are a bad person. If you protect yourself, you are letting people down. But Buddhist wisdom encourages a different perspective. What if guilt is not always a sign that you are doing something wrong? What if guilt is simply the discomfort that appears whenever you begin creating healthy boundaries? Think about it. If you spend 20 years saying yes to everything, saying no will feel uncomfortable. If you spend 20 years putting everyone else first, prioritizing yourself will feel uncomfortable. If you spend 20 years carrying everyone's burdens, putting those burdens down will feel uncomfortable. But discomfort and wrongdoing are not the same thing. Many people confuse the two. They assume that because something feels uncomfortable, it must be wrong. Yet growth often feels uncomfortable. Change often feels uncomfortable. Freedom often feels uncomfortable at first. The discomfort is not evidence that you are making a mistake. It is evidence that you are breaking an old pattern. One of the most powerful realizations in life is understanding that you are not responsible for everyone's happiness. You are not responsible for everyone's choices. You are not responsible for everyone's reactions. You are not responsible for fixing every problem that appears around you. Each person carries their own karma. Each person walks their own path. Each person must learn their own lessons. The moment you truly understand this, guilt begins losing its power. You stop feeling responsible for outcomes you cannot control. You stop carrying emotional burdens that do not belong to you. You stop sacrificing your peace to satisfy expectations that can never be fully satisfied. Because the truth is this: no matter how much you give, some people will still want more. No matter how much you sacrifice, some people will still complain. No matter how much you help, some people will still feel entitled. If your goal is to eliminate all guilt by pleasing everyone, you will spend the rest of your life chasing an impossible destination. Someone will always be disappointed. Someone will always want more. Someone will always think you should do something differently. The Buddha understood that inner peace does not come from controlling other people's opinions. It comes from understanding your own mind. And when you understand your own mind, you begin seeing guilt for what it truly is. Not always a moral compass, sometimes simply a habit, a conditioned response, a learned pattern that has been repeated for so many years that it feels natural. As you enter the later years of life, one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is permission. Permission to say no, permission to protect your time, permission to protect your money, permission to protect your energy, permission to choose peace over obligation. This does not mean becoming selfish. It means becoming conscious. Conscious of where your resources go, conscious of who has access to your life, conscious of what truly matters. Many people reach old age still trapped by guilt, still living according to expectations, still carrying responsibilities that belong to others, still sacrificing their own happiness to avoid disappointing people. But wisdom offers another path, a lighter path, a freer path, a more peaceful path. The path of understanding that your life is not meant to be controlled by guilt. Your life is meant to be guided by awareness. And awareness teaches a simple truth. You can be kind without being used. You can be generous without being exploited. You can be compassionate without sacrificing your peace. And sometimes the wisest thing you can do is release the guilt that has been controlling your choices for years, because the older you get, the more valuable your peace becomes, and nothing steals that peace faster than a life ruled by guilt. True Buddhist wisdom is knowing who deserves access to your time, money, and heart. If there is one lesson that many people spend their entire lives learning, it is this: not everyone deserves unlimited access to you. This may sound simple, but it is one of the most difficult truths to fully accept. Most people grow up believing that being a good person means giving endlessly, giving your time, giving your energy, giving your attention, giving your money, giving your love, giving your patience. And while generosity is a beautiful quality, many people eventually discover that giving without wisdom creates suffering. Not because generosity is wrong, but because not everyone values what they receive. Some people appreciate your kindness. Some people respect your boundaries. Some people honor your sacrifices, but others simply take and take and take, until one day you realize that the problem was never your willingness to give. The problem was that you never stopped to ask who truly deserved what you were offering. Many people reach old age carrying deep disappointment, not because life failed them, but because they gave too much of themselves to the wrong people. They invested years in relationships that never grew. They poured energy into people who never appreciated it. They sacrificed peace for people who never protected theirs. And perhaps the most painful part is that these losses often happen slowly. No one wakes up one morning and decides to waste 20 years. No one intentionally chooses relationships that will drain them. Instead, it happens little by little. A small compromise here, a tolerated disrespect there, an excuse made for someone's behavior, a boundary ignored, a warning sign dismissed. Year after year, the pattern continues until the cost becomes impossible to ignore. This is why Buddhist wisdom places such importance on awareness. Awareness is not only about meditation. Awareness is not only about sitting quietly and observing thoughts. Awareness is learning to see reality clearly in every area of life, including relationships, including money, including how you spend your time. The Buddha repeatedly emphasized that the people around you influence your path, whether you realize it or not. Every person you allow close to you affects your mind. They affect your habits. They affect your emotions. They affect your peace. Some people help you grow. Others keep you trapped. Some people encourage wisdom. Others encourage confusion. Some people bring calmness into your life. Others bring constant chaos. And the longer you live, the more obvious these differences become. When you are young, it is easy to believe you have endless time. You recover quickly from mistakes. You rebuild after setbacks. You assume there will always be another opportunity, another year, another decade. But age teaches something different. Age teaches that time is finite. Every year becomes more precious. Every season becomes more valuable. Every day begins carrying greater significance. And because time becomes more valuable, the people you spend it with become more important as well. One of the greatest forms of wisdom is understanding that access to your life is a privilege, not an entitlement. Many people never learn this. They allow anyone to enter their emotional world, anyone to consume their energy, anyone to demand their attention, anyone to influence their peace. As a result, they spend their lives feeling overwhelmed, exhausted, and emotionally scattered, not because they lack strength, but because they never learned how to protect what is valuable. Imagine owning a beautiful garden. You would not allow anyone to walk through it and destroy the flowers. You would not allow anyone to throw trash into it. You would not allow anyone to damage something you spent years cultivating. Yet many people treat their inner world with less care than they would treat a garden. They allow negativity to enter. They allow manipulation to enter. They allow disrespect to enter. They allow endless demands to enter. Then they wonder why peace feels so distant. The truth is that peace requires protection, not through anger, not through isolation, but through wisdom. Wisdom means understanding that not everyone deserves the same level of access to your life. Some people deserve your trust. Others deserve caution. Some people deserve your closeness. Others deserve distance. Some people deserve your generosity. Others must earn it through responsibility and respect. This does not mean judging people harshly. It means observing them honestly. People reveal themselves through patterns, not promises, not words, not intentions, patterns. A person who consistently respects you reveals their character. A person who consistently uses you reveals their character. A person who consistently brings peace reveals their character. A person who consistently creates chaos reveals their character. The wise person pays attention to these patterns and then makes decisions accordingly. Many older people carry unnecessary suffering because they continue giving access to people who have repeatedly shown they cannot be trusted with it. They keep opening doors that should have been closed years ago. They keep returning to relationships that repeatedly bring pain. They keep offering opportunities to people who repeatedly misuse them, and all because they hope things will somehow become different. But Buddhist wisdom is not built upon hope. It is built upon awareness. Awareness asks a simple question: what is actually happening? Not what do you wish were happening, not what you hope will happen. What is happening right now? The answer to that question often reveals everything you need to know. As you enter the later chapters of life, your greatest responsibility is not pleasing everyone. It is protecting your peace, protecting your time, protecting your energy, protecting your heart, because these are among the most valuable things you possess. Money can be recovered, possessions can be replaced, opportunities may return, but the years of your life cannot be reclaimed. The peace of your mind cannot be purchased. The calmness of your heart cannot be bought. That is why true Buddhist wisdom is not simply learning how to give. Most people already know how to give. True wisdom is learning where your gifts belong, who deserves your time, who deserves your generosity, who deserves your trust, who deserves your heart, and perhaps most importantly, who does not. Because one of the highest forms of wisdom is understanding that your life is a sacred gift, and not everyone deserves unlimited access to something so precious. The moment you truly understand this, everything changes. Your relationships become healthier. Your mind becomes calmer. Your heart becomes lighter. And your remaining years become filled with far more peace than regret. That is the freedom that wisdom brings. And that is the lesson many people spend a lifetime trying to learn. As you grow older, remember this: your time is precious. Your peace is precious. Your life is precious. Do not give them away to people who do not value them. Buddhist wisdom teaches that a peaceful life is not created by having more, it is created by letting go of what no longer belongs. So as you move forward, choose wisely. Protect your energy, protect your heart, and most importantly, protect the years you still have left, because they may be the most valuable gift of all.